Hello YouTube, Sidekick here with another installment of the Iron Bomber's Guide to the Galaxy. Today we're once again out in our trusty Fighter Bomber Mark VI Mosquito. The perceptive amongst you will have noted, however, that we are not in a World War II environment. There's no Channel or Normandy maps today. Today we're in Kobuleti because it's time to take the Mozzie out to the range and see how she does as an Iron Bomber, because, well, that's what I do. Of course, the Mosquito is a true Iron Bomber, is in that the only aid that's provided to the pilot in this very detailed cockpit is just a trusty reflector sight. But given that this range is where I come to test all of the aircraft that I fly, it seemed like the most appropriate place to take the Mosquito so I can compare it to the other aircraft that I fly in DCS. And I've been practicing with it a bit, and I think I can predict that you will be impressed by how accurately and reliably the Mosquito can deliver some significant hurt to its unfortunate targets. So, as you can see, we managed to take off from Kobuleti, heading west. It wasn't pretty, but we're now wheels up and we're headed back around to the east here. For those of you who do not frequent this channel, this is a mission file that you can pick up on my Discord server. It has an iron bombing range just north of Kobuleti that's made up of elements from the base game, so you won't have to download any mods to use the range. And the mission comes with a script file that will track your bomb drops. A note for everyone, I had to make a small change to the bombing script file so that it recognizes the Mossie's bombs. So if you want to use the range yourself, you will have to download the latest version of the mission from my Discord channel, but it'll be up there if you want to go look for it. The link to my Discord channel is in the description of the video. So today we're armed with a standard loadout of 4 20mm cannon and 4 303 machine guns, and then we're also carrying 2 500-pound short-tail bombs in the bomb bay. Now, the mission is set to unlimited weapons, so we'll be able to make multiple runs without having to go back and reload. So the plan is basically head out to the range, and we'll do at least a couple of gun runs probably, and then we'll do a couple of bombing runs, and just figure out what some good procedures are. Obviously not only for setting up the cockpit, and there are a few switches that have to be thrown, it has to be said, but also maybe some procedures we can use for aiming, particularly for the bombs. The Mosquito does not come with any instructions about how to deliver bombs effectively, so maybe we'll start trying to work on some rules that work on the range. It's honestly not all that complicated, but I think there are some things you can do to ensure that you're going to get reasonable consistency with dropping the bombs. So, the range is out here to the right, to the north of town, as anybody who has watched these videos before will know, but it takes a little while to get there, especially when you're limited to a couple hundred miles an hour, as we are in a World War II aircraft. But maybe while we're on the way out there, let's just talk a little bit about the Mosquito. I didn't do very much of that in my first impressions video, which, by the way, if you haven't watched, it'd be great if you wanted to go take a look at that. The Mosquito is justifiably famous for some of its deep penetration raids, like the raids on Berlin during the Nazi Party 10th anniversary celebrations, or Operation Jericho, the raid on the Amiens prison, or the attack on the Gestapo headquarters in The Hague. But to me, the really impressive thing about the Mosquito's record is not these specific missions, but rather the staggering variety of missions that the Mosquito and all its variants flew during World War II. I'm just going to test my guns here, so I'm flipping the switch to enable the cannons and guns, and now we're just making sure that they work. I'm loving that animation of the 20mm cartridges coming out. So, as I was saying, I mean, the Mosquito basically engaged the enemy at everything from 30 feet off the ground to 30,000 feet, from deep penetration raids like the one we talked about to photo reconnaissance missions even farther into enemy territory. The Mosquito engaged the enemy with everything from 303 machine guns to 4,000-pound bombs, which this model can't carry, but the bomber version certainly did. The Mosquito was the first aircraft to be fitted with the first rudimentary air-to-ground targeting system called OBO, and it was the first Allied aircraft to be fitted with air-to-air radar that it used as a night fighter. So now we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. We're just getting set up for the first gun run as we come up to the range here. Now, firing the guns is pretty simple, so I've turned on the sight, which has moved my position behind the sight. It's pretty much a question of put the sight on your target and press the button, although you do have to be prepared for the fact that there is a slight delay after pressing the trigger before the guns fire. So we're coming in at a pretty shallow angle here because I want to show you one of the issues that you need to be careful of. And you can see that I'm coming close to the targets, but I'm not doing any damage. Those are M113s, by the way, which obviously, again, not World War II vehicles, but I can attest they are imminently damageable with 20mm cannons. So what happened there? Well, one of the things about the Mosquito is that the cannons and the guns are very accurate. They have a very small beaten zone. So part of the problem is you really have to make sure that you are pointed at the thing that you want to hit. Or if you want to hit an area, you have to actually play with the nose of the aircraft a little. You can move the rudders from side to side and move the pitch slightly and actually move the rounds around. Now, the other problem is when you come in very low like that at a shallow angle, of course, the range to the target is very, very sensitive to pitch. And what you were seeing there was we just missed the target because we shot in front of it, then we shot over it, we shot between them. So I'm going to do a second run at a slightly higher dive angle, and also just try to be a little bit more careful about getting my nose right on the target. And hopefully that'll give us some better results. So, like I was saying before, the wide range of missions that the Mosquito flew. I mean, in modern parlance, we would say that the Mosquito performed missions ranging from close air support to battlefield interdiction to deep strike, from combat air patrol to defensive counter-air. You could probably even claim that they did their share of suppression of enemy air defenses at times. And they performed anti-shipping strikes. I mean, in short, the Mosquito was probably the very first truly multi-role aircraft and the natural ancestor of aircraft like the FA-18 and the F-35. And it was able to do this because it was a really versatile blend of speed and agility combined with endurance, high-altitude performance, and, frankly, usable payload. And all the while, it did this while being made entirely of birch and balsa wood, which is pretty impressive. So it's great to be able to fly this aircraft in DCS. Now we're rolling in slowly. Just watching, we're going to go after the same target again. So the vehicle's to the left of that white building. Same procedure as we usually use. We're going to get the lift vector onto the target. We're going to pull up. I'm going to pull up a little underneath the target and then walk the sight up. This time I'm really going to try and aim at the vehicles and not go through them. And there we get some better results there. The other thing to be aware of with the cannons and particularly the machine guns, I'm not really sure how effective the machine guns are in air-to-ground mode, but you might as well throw them in there while you got them. The thing to remember about them is they are very short range, particularly if you're used to flying jet aircraft, particularly if you're used to flying something like the A-10 with the 30mm GAU. The range is very short. You really do have to be patient and wait until you're close to the target. And if you approach from any significant dive angle, it's not going to give you a long exposure to actually fire at the target before you get too low. But I think this is typical of World War II attack tactics. If you tend to fly later aircraft, I think you get used to attacking from higher altitudes and from farther away. But during the Second World War, air-to-ground was a little bit more up close and personal. Okay, well that's the guns we've used. Now let's get ready to do a bombing run. So there are a number of switches you have to throw. First you have to open this plexiglass panel. You have to turn the bombing system on or arm it with that big switch. Then you get to turn the bomb stations 3 and 4 on, which are in the payload bay. And then I've set the bombs to be fused on the nose. I'm not sure whether fusing them nose or tail makes a whole lot of difference. Okay, so the bombs are ready to go, except for one other thing, which we absolutely will have to remember, and that is that we do have to open the bomb bay doors whenever we want to drop the bombs. We do have to open the bomb bay doors whenever we want to drop the bombs. You will note that I am repeating that to myself And as you can gather, it would not be the first time that I forgot to do that, and then wasn't able to drop the bombs. So this time we're going to try and drop the bombs on that white building beside the vehicles that we just strafed. And we're going to use a fairly standard approach, opening the bomb bay doors now, so we've solved that problem. Now, we know the bomb bay doors are open when the lever comes back up to neutral, and also that little orange light just to the right comes on. We're going to use a fairly standard iron bombing approach that anybody who's watched this channel is used to. We're coming in here almost 90 degrees to the target. We're going to wait until it's lined up just off the engine there. We're going to roll over. We're going to put the lift vector on the target, pulling back the power just a little bit. We're going to put the lift vector on the target. We're going to pull up under the target. And then we're going to set the center of the sight to an aim-off point just beyond the building. And then we're going to wait until the building crosses the bottom arc of the reflector sight. And I've practiced with this to figure out I want to aim somewhere around here and let go there. And as you can see, we got a nice splash right in the middle of the target. So now the thing about this is we didn't drop from a very high altitude. Dropping at, we probably dropped at maybe 1,200 feet, maybe a little bit more, 1,500. Dropping at that altitude in a more modern era is probably nearly suicidal if there's any AAA around, especially any radar-guided AAA, but that's not where we are. So I think one of the keys to being accurate with the Mosquito is accepting the fact that you're going to be dropping from a lower level, and that makes it a little bit less sensitive to aiming. But I think this system that works, with any of the other iron bombers, and works even if you have a CCIP Pipper, which is to pick an aim-off point, fly pretty much straight at that, and wait till you hit the release point that you know what that's going to be based on where the target crosses the sight. I think if you learn to pick your aim-off point accurately, it's really not very difficult to deliver the bombs, certainly within their lethal radius. I mean, these are two 500-pound bombs. I think I'm able to get them within 20 meters on most drops if I'm not screwing up the approach too badly. And I think that's pretty deadly, actually. So I think the Mosquito is actually going to be a really nice aircraft for tracking not only installations but enemy troops. But you do have to take some care to line it up and get consistent. Learn what aim-off marks work for you. So let's go practice that one more time. I'm going to do a little bit slightly steeper approach. I didn't check the last one, but it was probably around 25 degrees. I'm going to try to get to a full 30-degree approach, but I'm going to use the big 50-meter target this time. And, I found the aim-off mark is probably about 50 meters or so about a width of the circle beyond the aim-off mark, and we're opening bomb bay doors, I should say 50 meters beyond the target. If you put the sight on that and leave it there, then when the bottom of the reticle crosses the target, that's just about exactly what you want for the release point. So once again, we're just coming in from the left, we're starting to lose altitude a little, pull the power back. As we roll in, we're going to put that lift vector on the target, and we're going to pull up and roll out just below the target, and then we're going to advance the sight, the center of the sight, beyond the target, up into the tree line there just a little bit, and we're going to hold it there and release. And it's pretty hard to argue with that result. So, like I said, the little bit of work with the Mosquito has convinced me that it's going to be a heck of an iron bomber, and I'm looking forward to taking it out on some missions. So I hope you guys get a chance to try the Mosquito. Love to hear what you think of it. But for now, this is going to be Sidekick, signing off.